This is stage 10 review, starting off with some Latin vocab that either we haven't seen in a little bit or ones that I felt like you might have trouble with in translation or throughout the test. We have contendibat, duenibus, thermos, fescinamus, optimus, major, fortiorus, pulcherrima, stultior, notissimi, felix, stilus, tabula, papyrus. As we go through here, a couple of these I put up here because I wanted you to recognize endings. I want you to see, I want you to see that BA in contendebat. So when I see that BA in contendebat, I know that is imperfect tense. The ebus and uenibus is dative. So 2 or 4 of the young men. Thermos, make sure you recognize that as accusative and plural. So baths. We see the mus and festamus, fescinamus, we were hurrying, optimus. This is best, major is better, fortiores. We see the IOR there, that creates the comparative, so that's braver. Pulcherrima, we get our double R, that's a superlative. Stultior, IOR, that's our comparative. So we have most beautiful, very beautiful, and then stultus is more foolish. And notissimi, we get the double S, so most or very famous. Felix, lucky. Stylus is the little writing thing that looks like a pencil on one end and then has the flat thing on the other to scrape off your mistakes. Tabula, those are the wax tablets. A lot of times they are binded together, create a little book. Papyrus is, of course, the sheets of paper that they're going to be used. And when you see those, they would have that nice little roll at the top, then the paper, and a nice little roll at the bottom as well. So those are the Latin vocabs that you need to make sure you're aware of, especially recognizing those datives and comparatives and superlatives. Another thing you're going to have to be able to do on your test is recognize whether something is common to Greek or common to Roman. Fighters, that would be Romans. Romans were the fighters. Idealist, Greeks were the philosophers, they were the idealists. Euripides, he was Greek. Imitatores, remember during the argument that the Greek boy called the Romans imitators, so imitators would be Roman. Rheteres, those are going to be our teachers, those are going to be Greek. Homer, he was Greek. Agricolae, farmers, are common to the Romans. Pictores, painters, are going to be the Greeks. Practical are the Romans. English vocabulary. Oh, too far. We have exclamation. Obviously, that is some kind of comment that is emotional. Soliloquy, that is a speech given by one person alone. Opportune is the best time or the most fitting time for something to happen. Library, collection of books. Fraternity is a place for brothers to gather. Fraternity is something we use in colleges where a bunch of brothers hold some kind of common house, hang out, parties, all that stuff. Sempiternal is everlasting. Semper coming from always, and then the eternal, same base as eternal. Solitude is by themselves, from solus. Imperious is someone who is arrogant, like an emperor. Reticent is someone who keeps to themselves, they're quiet, don't reveal their feelings. Inimical is, can't say this right. Inimical. Thank you. That is hateful. Vehemently is violently. Conversation is two people versing, talking together. Pacify is to make peace, and sententious is somebody who is it's an adjective describing somebody who is being overly pompous, especially whenever they're dealing with morals and morality. Roman teacher in charge of the secondary level was called a magister ludi. On what did the Romans write? If it was permanent writing, they would have used papyrus. If not, they would have used wax tablets. Who accompanied Roman children to school, and why was this necessary? The Roman slave pedagogus would accompany the children to school. Obviously, they're small, so you have to have some kind of supervision for them. You don't want them to get kidnapped, things like that. Why was this necessary? Obviously, you don't want the kids roaming about the streets. Remember, they first started going to school, they're only 7, so they have to have some sort of supervision. Also responsible for any kind of disciplinary actions that need to be taken during school. So they're responsible for the behavior of those students as well. Where did the Romans receive primary education? Well, the first stage of their education would have been at home, and then they would go to the ludus with the ludi, with the magister, ludi magister, who taught at the elementary level. That would be the ludi magister. So I guess I kind of messed up with number 1. What is the Roman teacher in charge of the secondary school called? That was the grammaticus. I messed up my orders there. The elementary level would have been the magister. Where did the girls receive their education? That was at home. What was it comprised of? Most of them would have learned how to do things around the house, how to keep it clean, how to spin, maybe how to make clothing, etc. The wealthier Roman girls would have learned how to run a household full of slaves. They had to be very good managers. They would have been educated at a higher level than the rest of the girls. What nationality was prevalent among the educators? That would have been Greek. What skills subjects were taught in schools? Most of the education would have surrounded languages, especially Greek and Latin. They would have read poetry. They would have had to memorize passages. They would have to go through all the grammar of the passages. They would have learned a little bit about a history, a little bit about geography, but most of the technical stuff that they learned was through being apprenticed or an apprenticeship. When did the students leave the ludi magister? That would be around the age of 11. Where did papyrus come from? That came from Egypt. How long did the school day last? About 6 hours. What months were the schools open? Pretty much opened throughout the year. They would have closed down in the heat of summer. They would have also shut down for public festivals, holidays. The summer months from July to October probably would have been closed. So from July to October. Who wrote the Latin epic, the Aeneid? That would be Virgil. Virgil was a Roman poet. What was the major factor in the level of education? That would be how much money you made. The biggest factor was what kind of money was your family coming from. Were they very wealthy? You would have a higher education than if they were not. What did they write with? They wrote with a stylus. Here are an example of some of the skills that you're going to have to know for your test. You're going to have some fill-in-the-blank type stuff where you choose A, B, C to fill in the blank. Try to do these two and see if you can figure out what they're asking you for. And number 1, I have we as my subject. I have adorimus as my verb. So we Romans worship or praise the gods is what I'm going to have. So what goes here? What case goes in this spot? If we are worshiping something, is it for the gods, to the god, or is it just accusative gods? That's the question that I'm asking here. This DA would be plural and nominative. So I've already got a nominative with no, so it's not that one. Deos is the accusative with the OS. That's just being used as a direct object, and then the deus is for the gods or to the gods. We're going to go with the accusative because we are missing a direct object, so deos. So this one is asking you, do you know what case to use in this sentence? The next one, calpo, the innkeeper, blank, ring, and shows. So I have the innkeeper as my subject, that's nominative. I have the verb show, and then I have an accusative, show the ring. So I'm not going to use an accusative, I'm not going to use a nominative, I'm looking for the dative. I need an indirect object. So the innkeeper showed the ring to the wife. You're going to have to be able to determine what case needs to go in those blanks. The best way to do that is to determine how it's being used in the sentence. Is it a subject? Is it a direct object? Is it an indirect object? You're also going to have to choose between ego, to, nos, and vos for the personal pronoun that should be used with a verb. So if I look at sum, which one of these would I use for the pronoun that would go with sum? Well, it's I am, ego is I, so I would choose ego. Festanamus, same thing. I'm looking at my ending, that's moose. Don't forget our Marty Moose. Moose is we. Which one of these is we? Nos. So nos festanamus. Habetus, same thing. I'm looking for my ending. It is tis. That is you plural. Vos is the you plural, so I would use vos. Dicus, I'm looking for two because it is second person in singular, meaning you, and two is you. Here's some more practice that would be good for you on the test. I have bolded this word, contendebat, and I am asking you what tense it is. I look for the tense marker, I get BA. I get the BA right there. That tells me I am dealing with the imperfect. Sorry about that. I'm dealing with the imperfect. For Dixit, I have to remember my Dico, Dicera, Dixie, Dictus. That Dixie is perfect because Dicit would be present. It comes from Dicera. Dixie is the third principal part. That's the perfect stem, and that's why I would choose the perfect here. Erratior. Is it a positive, comparative, or superlative? Does it have a double S, a double R, double L? It is, so it does not. So it is not my superlative. Does it have IOR? Yes, it does. IOR represents the comparative adjective. Contentus is also an adjective. It's asking you, do you know if it is a positive adjective, comparative adjective, superlative adjective? Comparative has IOR, contentus does not. Superlative has double L, double S, double R. This one does not. Makes it a positive adjective. Metelli, how is it being used? What case is it being used in? That's what it's asking. I've looked down here, it's looking for cases. So I'm going to go through the sentence. Caecilius metelli et melissae dixit ad forum festinatus. I want to translate it first to make sure that I'm good. I have Caecilius as my subject, so subject first, Caecilius, followed by the verb said. I don't have an accusative, so this AEs, they can't be nominative and plural. First of all, you can't have more than one Metella or one Melissa. I guess you could, but most of the time you're not going to. And it's not accusative, so that AE, the only other AE I have in the first declension is dative. So the translation would be Caecilius said to Metella and Melissa, hurry to the forum. You all hurry to the forum. Don't forget the you all, that TIS. Here I have the same sentence asking a different question. I'm asking for the person. I get festinatus. I see the TIS. I know that that is second person and plural. I know that because I would use vos. Don't forget I would use vos as my personal pronoun. Same sentence, different word. Dixit, is it first, second, or third person? I see the T. That single T says I am third person and singular. Should be used to that. That's pretty much all we've dealt with is third person singular and first person plural. So that one should be fairly recognizable to you. The other thing you have to be able to do, we've already kind of did this on the other page, but that's fine. You need to be able to look at these verbs, these four verbs, and choose which personal pronoun would go with those four verbs. Vides is UC, so I would choose to. I would use to for UC. It is singular. That S is singular. It doesn't have TIS. It just has the S. Singular. second person singular, second person pronoun is two. This one I have vamos. Moose is first person plural. The first person plural pronoun is nos. So nos goes with moose. Two goes with the s. The next one we have habetus. The tis says I am second person and plural. So what goes with the tis? It is wos. D. I have wineo here, so I'm looking at the O. Remember, I can use O or M for the first person singular. First person singular pronoun is ego, so I would choose ego for wineo. Once again, looking at the ending and being able to determine by the ending which personal pronoun I would use. So ego is going to use O or M. Two is going to use just the S. Nos is going to use moose. Wos is going to use that TIS ending. Picking out which one does not belong. We did this in class. You can try those again if you want. This one right here, the Mercator blank. This is more fill in the blank stuff. Looking at the blank, I want to ask myself, what kind of word goes in that blank? Is it a subject? Is it a direct object? Or is it an indirect object? In the first one, Mercator is my subject. So I can eliminate anything that's nominative right away. Melissa, gone. Can't be it. I've already got a nominative, the merchant. The merchant showed something, because that's my verb, showed something. Do I have an accusative? Togas? Yes, I do. The merchant showed togas. What am I missing? I am missing, well, I don't need an accusative. I am missing the dative. Showed the togas to Melissa. I look at that AE, that's my dative singular ending for the first declension. That's why I'm using the dative. In the last one, again, I'm going to ask what word would go in that blank as far as how is it being used. When I read this, I have three something in the forum, wives, and I have they saw. You could argue that uxorus is nominative and plural, but based off of the word order, I'm going to say it's probably accusative. So I'm going to go. I'm going to say that it's not accusative. So if it's not accusative, then this one needs to be nominative. It's not nominative in singular because I have three of them. It's not being used as dative. I would choose hominis. You could make the argument to use the dative, except for later on we'll learn that trace is actually nominative as well. You don't know that yet, but that's fine. But just based off of word order, I would use hominis as the nominative instead. That's the review, and good luck on your test.